written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Excuse me, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball.
Somebody said play ball.
Well, welcome back to our new and improved Recreation Centers of Sun City Member Board Exchange. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today and coming back to find out how we did. This Member Board Exchange is audio and video recorded by RCSC management and staff, so please be advised there is no recording of this meeting by any individual. If you could be so kind as to take out your cellular phones and place them on silent so you don't disturb anybody during the meeting, and I will try really hard to remind you to put them back on again. I'd like to start with introductions. Mike Iggy is our Board Vice President.
Good morning.
Darla Akins, Board Treasurer.
Good morning.
Alan Lanefsky, our Board Secretary.
Hello.
Other board members include Steve Collins.
Hi, everyone.
Kat Fimmel.
Good morning.
Karen McAdam.
Good morning.
And John Nowakowski is not here today. And Sue Wilson up on the stage. Also present today is our General Manager, Bill Cook.
Good morning, everybody.
Marcia Johnson, our Executive Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
Also present is Chris Herring here? No. Brian Duthu, our Director of Golf. Jolynn Higgins, Communications and Marketing Coordinator. Mike Weeprud, our Buildings and Infrastructure. Did I miss anybody? Oh, and Kevin McCurdy, our Director of Finance. I'd also like to thank Alan Kleinhans in the corner over there, and Mike Crawford, they're our audio and visual engineers. Did I? Oh, and also, not to forget, very important, Teresa Serino, Director of Events up in the booth. Thank you very much. Okay, as you can see, we made a few changes, took some input from people. We've got, you'll see rotating slides on the side that kind of give some ideas or suggestions on how to do things. We eliminated some of the microphones, so we now just have 2 mics. Oh no, I guess we have more mics. We have mics everywhere.
There's a mic.
So, as before, you're welcome to come up to a mic. Try to be as clear, give your name and your member number, and then try and be as clear and concise as you can about the nature of your business, so we can try and get it in as few words or less on the screen. And then be willing to offer at least 1 or 2 suggestions if you would be so kind. And we have to make sure we take turns, so if you could limit your conversation, when you come up to 1 issue at a time, that helps us to get through the list and address it later on. Okay, before we start, I wanted to just have some of the chairs of committees do a little brief report if they had one. Our first committee is bowling. Sue, do you have?
Yes. Just so you're aware, bowling is coming back. Our numbers are back up almost to pre-pandemic level. We have a couple of new things going on at the bowling alley this year that are definitely encouraging. One is Bowl with the Director of the RCSC Bowling, and that is every Thursday morning at Lakeview from 10:30 till noon. It is free for members and our card holders to get some instruction to help improve your game. And another game that Mike Diermeyer is putting out this year is called Angry Bowling. So if you're familiar with Angry Birds, it is a game that you play with the bowling, and it's 5 frames. And it is at both centers on Saturday afternoon, and Mike says that it's really bringing in the numbers. So it might be something you'd like to do on one of those hot Saturday afternoons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The COC, Club Organization Committee, Chair Sue Wilson.
The COC committee just met. We are meeting now every 3rd month. The COCs no longer are in charge of particular clubs, but they're in charge of categories. And it seems to be working extremely well.
Very good. The next committee is the Elections Committee, and I'm the chair of that committee. We also have been meeting, and what's important right now is that we are organizing our Candidate Information Center sessions. They're going to be held on June 6th, which is the day you can pick up your packets if you are so inclined to run for a great seat up here. We are going to have 2 sessions on the 6th. The first one is at 9 a.m. and the second one is at 1 p.m. So if you haven't thought, maybe you would like just some information on what's involved with the board, we would strongly encourage you to come. Thank you. Finance, budget, and audit. Karen?
Yeah, we have not had a meeting yet this year. The first one is scheduled for a week from Friday.
Thank you. Golf advisory, Steve Collins.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see so many people coming out to golf this year. We're actually exceeding last year's numbers in golfers. So it's nice to see the sport is making a rebound. Hopefully it will stay. A lot more people got out and golfed during the pandemic because that's all they could do. But they seem to be coming back, so that's a great thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Insurance, Sue, do you have anything to add?
No, we have 2 motions for the board meeting accepting the premiums for next year, as well as not doing the terrorist act on it.
Very good. Lawn bowling advisory. Karen, could you give us an update on lawn bowling?
Oh, that's right. John's not here today. I wasn't prepared to say anything. I think things are moving along well, and the courses, I've learned a lot about how lawn bowling surfaces are cared for, and they're being well cared for.
Okay.
But obviously during the summer months, there's quite a drop-off in play.
All right, thank you. Long-range planning.
I'm Alan Lenevsky, and the chair of the Long Range Planning. The Long Range Planning Committee has done a lot of work over the last year or more, including proposing to the board a fitness machine motion that was passed. They last year passed a security initiative that has to work with some technology. And we are now working on a survey, a potential survey that would go to the board for consideration, and also what the long range general plan, basically what we want in the community long range, and also where we want it. And those are the things that are being worked on now. And I want to thank everybody from the Long Range Planning Committee for their hard work.
Thank you, Alan. Properties Committee. Sorry.
Stick my tongue out on him so I can turn the microphone back to me. Did you see what he did? He was trying to silence me. Good morning, Mike Agee here, Chair of the Properties Committee. We had an excellent meeting last month. We've implemented a new process with the help of Mike Weeprud and his staff, whereas we have some very solid guidelines now that we use when we go out for the property inspections, how we report back to his staff and evaluate whether or not there's a work order already in process. So it seems to help streamline what we're doing.
Thank you.
So, thank
You
you.
want to do Sun City in focus?
Might as well, since I have the microphone. Is that okay, Mike, over there? So, yeah, thank you. Yes, Sun City in Focus, episode 5 was released last week. I do want to say I'm super proud of the committee, the way we've all pulled together, and we're still developing our processes. So I do want to take a second to thank Carla, Lily, Stella, John, Steve, Terry. I mean, it's just been wonderful the way we're pulling together and having a good time. And 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Saturday morning shootings in various locations, and we're just having a really fun time putting this whole thing together. I think we are. I mean, when we can have a nice meeting and all go to breakfast like a little family, it makes it very enjoyable. So, and I hope everybody's getting to see these episodes, and feel free to critique them and let us know how we can improve. Thank you.
Thank you. Technology. Kat?
Thank you. As I mentioned at last month's meeting, Mr. Bird and his staff are hard at work on the plan that they outlined during the planning session. In the committee's mind, they have reached a point where they've been put into what's known as in-flight status, which means we're going to move away from that aspect of the IT process. It's well in hand, and we're starting to look at things like network infrastructure, web management, and some of the non-operational side of the house.
All right. Well, we'd like to get this meeting started. We're going to go over some of the things that were brought up last year and take a look at some of the response that we have. Director Wilson, if you want to start.
Yes, I am reviewing this idea of the non-residents being allowed to purchase a golf pass causing residents to be displaced. And right now, we are currently reviewing the golf pass fees for non-residents for next year. So that will be going through the finance process with the finance committee. Non-residents who pay for the annual pass are the only non-residents who have access to a web portal. So those of you that said they have access to it, yes, but only in order to book their round. Currently, I think there's only about 130 of those.
Brian, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add more than what was discussed.
Okay. Thank you. Next is transparency. It's something that came up quite a few times. So Secretary Lanevsky.
Okay. We have been listening to people concerned about the transparency of the corporation, and there are a number of things that are available to the general public. The first one are the financials. Basically, all the financials are available to the public. Standing committee reports are also available to the public, and also people can go both to the board meetings, the exchange, and the standing committee meetings. Board of Director minutes are available, as are the videos. The member exchange board videos are also available. Management reports are available, and they have been modified slightly to have colors on them to show some status of some projects. The annual budget is also available, and the PIF budget is available. So there are a number of documents that are available, and I just wanted to make sure, and we wanted to make sure that everybody was aware those were available. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item that was brought up was pool decking that needs to be replaced, and the suggestion was to replace more of the pool decking using carry forward money. What we discussed is that we have been replacing the pool decking with a product called Rubber Rock, and it's at 2 of our pools right now. It's expensive, and since we had so much difficulty with the pool decking, we want to make sure before we put this in at all pools that it's going to be sustainable and it's going to be, the maintenance costs and everything is going to be worth our while. So, if there's a huge problem, of course we're going to move forward on it, but right now, and General Manager, how long have we been evaluating those two, or Mike Wiprud?
Madam President, I'll defer to Mike.
So the Rubber Rock product is at more than 2 locations. I'll just read it off. Oakmont and Fairway, the shower areas were done in 2018. Bell Indoor Spa, 2018, June. Marinette Spa and Pool done 2019. Bell Lap Pool, Walking Pool, and Outdoor Spa done in 2020. So we have them at more than 2 locations, but we haven't had them in for that long of a period of time, 6 years, 2 years. So I think Chris Herring and the operations team, they have more of a day-to-day interaction with the pool than we do at maintenance, but the product seems to be working well, but I think it might be still being evaluated for if we want to put this at other pools.
Do we have a warranty on that product? Is there a year warranty on that, or?
Yeah, there's a warranty. I'm not sure the time frame. We just had a small repair that was done at Marinette that was done on warranty. So the answer is yes, but I don't think it's that extended of a period of time.
Madam President?
Yes.
I have a question for Mike. You said we have it in a number of locations. What is the average life expectancy with the old method that we used?
The cool decking?
Yes.
I don't know. I think, at least from my position, we would try to find products that would last at least 10 years. But, the Arizona Sun might have a different opinion.
Okay. I know John had other questions, but he's ill this morning. So the ones that are directly out in the sunlight are which areas?
Marinette and Bell.
And they've already had some issues where they're failing? Is that what you said? They've
No,
had
I said
warranty
that
work?
they've had some warranty repair work. It's minor.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could add, the key to success with that Rubber Rock is the routine maintenance that needs to be done, and I've talked to both Chris Herring and Barry regarding that, and I know that we are very diligent with respect to that, so I think that's going to be also key to our success with that product.
Okay, thank you. The next item was the Mountain View Performing Arts Center. A suggestion was made to have a standalone performing arts center as it could possibly bring in additional revenue.
Yeah, good morning again. Yeah, with the suggestion was made, as President Laird just stated, to look into moving the theater to its standalone location. I know that was looked at quite some number of years ago, and there was not a suitable location available. But more importantly, the plans for Mountain View are already in process, which include the theater. And certainly even with the theater in Mountain View, it would still make it available for outside usage.
Okay. All right. The next inquiry was regarding the statement on our marquees that said the original Fun City. And there was some discussion about there was no history regarding this term, and the request was made to replace it with the words City of Volunteers. So as a result, we went back and looked at some research that actually had been done. And Bill, off the top of my head, I can't remember if that was in the early 2000s, that first research by ASU?
The research that was done by ASU was probably within the last 10 years is what I believe.
Okay, so about 10 years old. That research showed that the phrase City of Volunteers was not as appealing from a marketing standpoint, that younger generations coming are looking for more active lifestyles and continuing education. But because this study was over 10 years old, we are working with ASU to look at ways to stay competitive to today's market, and we're going to be looking at doing some research in collaboration with that. So at this point, we're not changing our marquees. We're going to leave them just the way they are till we get more information. Outside tournaments, this has to do with golf again. Sue Wilson.
Yes. We are reviewing Board Policy 17 right now to see what changes can be made on outside tournament play. All the tournaments are posted on the golf calendar, and that is accessible on the web portal. So if you look at your web portal and go in, you'll find events and look under that, and you'll get the calendar so you know what golf courses have tournaments on which days.
Brian, please.
President Wilson, I do have a little bit more to add on this topic.
Sure.
I have revert,
Can you bring it up?
if I can figure it out.
There you go.
I'll just hold it. I have reviewed the board policy and will be making recommendations to Golf Advisory this month on some rewording to put some further restrictions and clarifications on things that we already do in regards to outside tournaments to make them a little less impactful to resident play.
Thank you.
So we will just consider that as, if we don't have something that says completed, that means it's ongoing. We're still doing research. We're still going to be exploring things. We might come up with board policy changes, bylaw changes, that sort of thing. Okay. The next item was some discussion on Duffyland Dog Park. Kat Fimmel.
Thank you. Some comments were made at the last meeting about incidents at the Duffyland Dog Park because non-members may be using the park. The park, of course, is for the exclusive use of RCSC members. The RCSC currently has a security initiative. Some of you may have seen the planning session that was done on that. And Duffyland is included in that security initiative, but right now it's slated for 2023. So in the interim, I'll be talking hopefully with the board of Duffyland to see what kind of possibilities there are with regard to non-members showing up. The RCSC is going to put up a second sign with regard to making it clear that Duffyland Dog Park is for the exclusive use of RCSC members.
Thank you.
Director Fimmel?
Yes.
I'd like to make a correction about what you stated about the future for the Duffyland. In the security proposal, we initially had asked them to look at Duffyland, but at the end of the day, there was no recommendation given for Duffyland. There's a problem there. We don't have electrical power. So if this becomes a priority, we would need to raise this as a priority in the 2023 budget. But right now, to say security for this area is on budget for 2023 is not accurate.
Well, if I didn't understand that correctly, that's okay. But it is, in my mind, an urgent issue. So I guess I'll be having conversations with management about how to resolve the issues.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. The next item was walkers on the golf courses. Director Collins.
Yes. All the employees have been notified, the rangers, and even we ask golfers, if you see someone walking on the course, notify a ranger or a worker, and they will be asked to leave. There is no bringing your dogs on the golf course. And you're not supposed to just go out and walk while people, they're playing golf. You can get hit by a golf ball. So that is something that we don't condone, walking on the golf course, and never condone bringing any kind of animals out on the golf course. We have enough of a time with the coyotes and the geese. So please don't bring animals out there and don't walk out on the golf course. You could get hurt. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Board member exchange. Member board exchange.
Member Board Exchange, good morning again. At the last board meeting, a motion was made and passed unanimously to change the name from board member exchange to member board exchange. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a done deal, but we do have to get through one more reading. But as it passed unanimously, I don't anticipate there being any objections. So we can almost mark that completed. Thank you.
We did. We marked it completed in red.
Completed, but kind of a little ahead.
Okay. Another concern that came up was regarding the noise with possible pickleball courts at Lakeview. Treasurer Akins.
There was some concern last time about the noise, if you put some pickleball courts at Lakeview, about the noise. Anywhere you put pickleball courts, you're probably going to have some noise, but there are some ways that we can soundproof some of the areas, and we're looking into different ways to soundproof it. When we, with the pickleball courts over at Mountain View, there's a lot of residents that complain about the noise. So, I mean, anytime you have outdoor courts, you're going to have that noise from pickleball. But there are ways to soundproof some of those areas, and we're looking into that.
Next item was about the steps and cost. Again, this kind of went into the whole transparency thing about the steps and costs of the Mountain View Center. Do you have anything to add to that, Secretary Lanevsky?
Yeah, just a couple things. Where we're at now is we're in negotiations to have a detailed plan for Mountain View prepared. There can be changes done at that at all times. The board has authority to make changes if it so wants to. The management reports are addressing this on a monthly basis, and to get to where we have been, there were a lot of meetings and stuff and a lot of controversy, I understand, but we're moving forward. But just because we're moving forward at this moment, the contract that we're working on now is the one to get the detailed plan. Once that is done, the detailed plan, of course, will come to the board, and the board will get to make considerations. And I think all of us are aware there may be some needed changes, such as bathrooms there, but this is not the point. It will be shortly thereafter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, how do clubs that will have dedicated space or will be using the Mountain View new facilities have any input? And basically, I would strongly suggest that, you know, if you are a club, and I've met with several clubs already, now is the time to start planning. I would be more than happy to come to a club meeting and, you know, kind of show you where we are at with the process. But this is the time when the club needs to start doing their work so that when it's time to sit down with the architect, you have a consensus amongst your club members on what exactly you envision so that it can be incorporated into the plan. So the answer to the question is you need to start thinking about it right now. And if you have any questions, feel free to put a shout out, and I'd be happy to come and talk to you.
Excuse me, President Lair.
Yes.
I sat down with the theater, and they already have many things that they need in their theater. So I think before we go too far, we should have a sit down with the theater group and find out exactly what they need in their theater.
Perfect. I look forward to that.
Here, President Lair?
Yes.
Director Collins? Two things. At the Performing Arts Center, we've been meeting, I have been meeting extensively with Jim McConnell and the president of the Sun City Players, Don Sorgi, others throughout this process. So I feel like their level of involvement has been vast and very helpful. Now, when it comes to the gymnasium part, we've been working merely to the guidelines set by the board in the 2020 directive that said, you know, these are the kind of the ground rule program for that building. So what I would recommend going forward is kind of like what you were suggested about energizing the clubs. And I would talk with Chris Herring about this and try to meet early on with potential interested clubs of that space and tell them, well, here's the general plan. These are the hoops. This is the type of flooring we're considering, et cetera, et cetera. And then learn from those particular clubs what might need to be changed at that time. So I'd say the process isn't nearly as advanced on the gymnasium part as it is on the Performing Arts Center. But there's still plenty of time for everybody to get on board. And that might include, and I'm not quite sure how we capture clubs that don't exist today, but once we build this wonderful gymnasium space, there's going to be some clubs that are going to be created to use that space.
Excuse me, Madam President.
Director Collins.
Director Whipro, Mr. Whipro, are we looking in the gymnasium to do all the lines on the floor from above with lighting so it can be, a program can be put in and it can be set up for basketball one day, put in a different program, the lines on the floor all show up for volleyball or whatever, line dancing, whatever we want, we can program into a above stage or lighting?
That's not part of the program at right now, as I interpret what the board gave us. But again, we can have that discussion with that technology.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on that? All right, the next issue that came up was donations, not allowed if not matched with RCSC. Director Wilson.
Yes, as I said at the last meeting, not having matching funds with RCSC could affect our 501c4 status. It is in our bylaws that donations can be made to the foundation without a matching fund to RCSC. We are making sure that we're adding it to the website about contributing to the foundation as well as other outside entities.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
Yes, and what we want to urge everyone is the men's club is the biggest donor that we have in Sun City, and we don't in any way want to jeopardize them because they are the life and blood of the Sun City Foundation and other things that we do here in Sun City. So we have to make sure that we don't jeopardize that. I mean, if your club wants to send a cup around and give it to the boys club or whatever, you do it that way, and you want to, you know, if you're not writing checks and you're not, you know, putting big articles in the paper, what you do with passing a cup around to your members is up to you. So, but we have to make sure that we don't jeopardize our main funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next issue that came up was regarding a lack of communication between board and management.
No, you skipped one. Oh, skipped one.
Missed one.
Bathrooms.
Oh, sorry. Well, there you go. Not enough bathrooms for women at the proposed Performing Arts Center. And that would be Director McAdam.
So in the first part of April, we moved from having had strictly conceptual plans for the Mountain View project to the beginning of a detailed design project, which is ongoing at the moment. So I think it's not only a question of whether there are enough women's bathrooms, but probably whether there are enough men's bathrooms as well. And that's certainly something that will be dealt with during the detailed design. During the detailed design project, that will certainly be carefully considered.
Director McAdam, I second that, actually. I mean, it's already, the bathrooms depicted reflect the code requirement as required by the Americans with Disabilities Act of 2010. So the statement that's saying there's not enough women's bathrooms, it's not an accurate statement. There are. Now, the question might be, do we want more than the county required minimum? And that's a fair question to ask, and as something we can tackle in the design if we have the space. But as contemplated, as currently drawn, we have enough bathrooms per the code for the Performing Arts Center.
So, Madam President, if I could just respond to that. Obviously, there's a big difference between what code is and what is appropriate. Sometimes the code is appropriate and sometimes it's not. So there have been some board members that have been doing some unofficial surveying of it. And so right now, the conceptual drawings are for 5 women's stalls and 5 men's stalls for a performing arts center that seats 400 people. So if you think about that, people don't leave during the middle of a presentation generally to go to the bathroom. It's during the intermission. So if you have 200 women and 200 men, and even if only a quarter of them want to use the facilities, you're talking about 50 people. With 5 stalls for women, that means that during intermission, whatever that might be, you've got 10 different people using every single stall. So just as a point of comparison, for instance, the Fairway Center, if you were to divide it in half to the sports side and then the club side, and just look at the club side, there are 17 men's stalls and 17 women's stalls on just the club side of Fairway, which does not have the feature of 400 people that all of at the same time are going to want to use the facilities. So I think it is very, very appropriate that we look at that and consider what is actually well done. But that's something that will happen during the detailed design project.
Madam President, I think what he was saying is that this is a minimum requirement is what he has. It doesn't mean that we have to stay with that. So yeah, we are looking into that and we will be increasing it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, and Madam President, the other thing is, I know that when I was younger, I could wait a lot longer than I can while I'm older.
Okay, that might be more information than we need. Moving on. Okay. Lack of communication between board and management. I'm not sure. I think this was a mistake. I don't know, because I just don't see there's a big, I will tell you, our general manager is always available. His door is open. You can walk in anytime as a board member and ask. If he is at a meeting, you can set up an appointment to go in and talk to him. We get a lot of information on a monthly basis. Every report you would ever want to deep dive into, we get it. And then there's always opportunities if you have questions to pick up the phone, email, or drop in and ask questions. Looking at this, I'm not sure, but I was wondering to myself if this wasn't more about a lack of communication between the board and the members. Okay, I didn't know, but I'm telling you, as you know, I've been on the board, this is my 5th year. I've never felt like I couldn't go and ask a question and get an answer. So, not quite sure where to go with that. Moving on, the Best Friends Dog Club, which actually was supposed to be first on the list, sorry about that, needs indoor climate-controlled club space. Director Fimmel.
Absolutely. The Best Friends Dog Club has renewed its request for a climate-controlled building, which would afford them the opportunity to expand their dog and people training activities, as well as providing these services year-round. The Best Friends Dog Club board did meet with several board members who toured their area and existing facilities, saw an agility training program. It was clear from all of that the club desperately needs more space. The RCSC is actively looking for current available space for this request, and the hope is that we can get this item placed on the PIF in the near future.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'd like to open up the mics on the floor. Anyone to come up and make a suggestion or comment?
John Fast, 153253. I do have handouts, if you would permit.
Go ahead.
I also have a PDF file, or a file if you want to show it. It's up to you. I also have a PDF file or a PowerPoint if you want to show it.
That's okay.
If the members want
Yeah,
it. Okay.
that's a little technology over my head, sorry.
Very good. Very good. I've given you a presentation that is a little bit long, and I'm not going to go through it all. And that's a good thing. One of the things that occurred to me in preparing for this was that the effort that you need to put in to get a decision right is commensurate with the importance of the decision.
Before you go on too far, could you tell us what the issue is?
I'm advocating for an extension of the moratorium.
Okay.
Okay. I believe that the extension of the moratorium to the next general meeting provides time to use a transparent, well-communicated database process and develop decision metrics for use in preparing and implementing a master plan for recreational facilities that includes Mountain View as one component. In my view, the moratorium is not a time for inaction. Much needs to be done. Broad data should be collected and analyzed and the board, management, and member representatives should investigate and implement one or more decision metrics using the data to allocate capital to the highest value uses. The LRP and the Sun City Players Club should analyze in detail, including costs and usage, all alternatives to address the obvious theatrical deficiencies in our current facilities. This should include proposed future schedule of events. Simultaneously, the sports clubs and members most impacted by the proposed Mountain View renovation, including but not limited to basketball, volleyball, badminton, water volleyball, pickleball, tennis, aquatics, swim club, lawn bowling, and the LRP should analyze in detail the options for meeting their needs in a manner that provides maximum enjoyment of the facilities at the best cost. In my view, there is no urgency to proceeding with the proposed Mountain View renovation. Detailed plans, and there are many advantages to take the time to get it right, including freeing resources, scarce resources, to work on water solutions and to let current economic anomalies, inflation, pandemic, supply chain disruptions, work themselves out. If we do this right, the decision process will provide recreational capital allocations that are easily explainable and broadly supported, thus restoring trust between all the affected parties. I would like to present one free-thinking alternative that you might consider in this period. If you were to decouple the theater from the renovation of Mountain View, you would save at least $15 million. Why? Because there's no phase 2 or phase 3. Both the theater and the Mountain View renovation could be completed in a fraction of the time that it takes to take a single site, demolish it entirely, and rebuild it. This also avoids the pickleball pickle, as I call it, completely, because you could leave the existing footprint and the pickleball courts intact and not have to build a pickleball pavilion. It maximizes the use of facilities during construction, and it provides greater multi-purpose utilization of theater space and greater sports usage of gymnasium space. And it allows the proposed theater to be closer to the center of Sun City, in my proposal at least, and closer to bars, restaurants, and including George's. Finally, it avoids joining incompatible uses, where you have a theater and an athletic facility in one facility. If you turn the page, you can see that there's a space in the Bell Rec Center that is an open parking lot. It has abundant parking. It has space for a theater, as well as a lobby that can be used for multi-purposes that includes flea markets and craft fairs. If you turn the page, the Mountain View Athletic Facility could, and I'm going to put my glasses on here for a second. Be constructed with an attractive pickleball or perimeter wall. All the pickleball courts could be covered in a shade structure similar to Marinette. The pickleball lines could be painted on the tennis courts to allow dual use. Common entrance lobbies could be located near the locker rooms, and not nearly as big. A multi-purpose state-of-the-art sized gym with laser light court lines, as Steve has suggested, net court separation, PGA electronic driving booths, and retractable spectator seating could be in for tournaments and whatnot. The right-size spa and exercise room with glass wall facing the pool. Could have 2 additional solar panels to provide shade for the renovated mini golf, and you could have 3 pools, if the budget allows it. With pool 1 being an indoor lap and walking pool, pool 2 being a step-down water sports pool with kiddie-friendly shallow and waterfall feature connecting the Tier 2 and Tier 3, which would leave the existing pool. I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm saying it is one of the thoughts that could be gathered if you have a moratorium to allow people to input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I would just want to point out that back in the March 31st meeting, I believe it was, that I suggested Lakeview as a possible alternative. I do hear what Mr. Egge said this morning about consideration having been given previously to ideas like that. Since Mr. Fast brings this up now, I think it only fair that if we're going to discuss potential other sites, that we consider Lakeview, because that would allow us to replace a building that is sadly in need of replacement. It would be a cost savings, as he's pointed out here today.
Don George, 27140. I've been listening to this idea of turning the Mountain View project into a sports complex, as someone has said, and booting the theater from its place. Let's go back 12 years. I'll go back only 4 years. And there was a meeting in 2018 by Long Range Planning. They met 2 meetings with the users of Mountain View, the people who spoke for what they wanted at that location. In the first meeting, 46 people spoke. 14 spoke for a pool, 18 for the Performing Arts Center, and 6 spoke for both. 8 people spoke for a sports complex or other. Gymnasium and pickleball never came up. In the afternoon meeting, 8 people spoke for the pool, 22 people for the Performing Arts Center, and 5 spoke for both. 5 spoke for another complex, other sports, whatever. Of the 86 people that spoke, 73 people wanted the pool and Performing Arts Center. Only 13 comments for the other. These are the people who will be using it, not the people who, in theory, want to get a sports complex where it was never intended. The initial thought was to have, of the boards, was to have a unique feature at every location. Pickleball has Marinette. They've got it sewed up. The gymnasium came on after the fact. And since there was no gymnasium, just the hoops up at Marinette, that was added after the people who used Mountain View spoke. But the theater, the Performing Arts Center, has always been part of the plan. If you decouple the theater, as people are saying, number one, you're not going to save $15 million. You're still committed to somewhere down the road building a theater. You're not saving any money at all. But what you do is you decouple the theater. It loses its place that it's been 12 years in the making. It no longer has a location. It no longer has a timeline, and it no longer has funding. That means it goes back to long-range planning, back where it was 12 years ago, and it'll kill the performing arts centers, especially the Sun City community players, and we've been around since 1960. I think that would be a travesty to, at this late date, try to convert Mountain View into a sports complex because certain people want pickleball and have a gymnasium and pickleball. That, to me, is really a subterfuge that should be stopped. I believe the people spoke 4 years ago, and I believe that they want the theater. Sun City needs a theater. If you take the combined attendance from the various performing art groups, it's 13,000 members and their guests. What about the older citizens who can no longer play basketball, who maybe can't even play pickleball? They need something to draw them and keep them into the community. And kicking the can down the road again is saying, well, maybe you should move the theater. Yeah, well, move the pickleball courts to Lakeview. That's been proposed. Move the pickleball courts to the Bell parking lot where they can make all the noise they want and no one cares. But leave the theater where the people who use Mountain View and the 13,000 other residents and guests are used to going. Don't kick this thing out again, period. Thank you.
Madam President?
Thank you. I would like to just a minute, please. I would just like to say, I don't like to interrupt anybody while they're speaking, but, you know, we have already had a motion on the floor at a meeting to continue the moratorium. That motion failed. I can't, according to Robert's Rules of Order, bring that back up. So I don't want, it looks like people did a lot of work on this, but that is over, at least for now.
Madam President, may I speak? I would like to just point out to Don that, yes, we did have the town hall meeting, and performing arts centers and the pools were the biggest things we heard in the town hall meetings. However, people could also send emails to our two directors that were leading that meeting, and there were several emails that pointed out that they wanted the gym. So that's why that was added in at that time.
Madam President? Yeah, I could not agree more that this community needs a performing arts center, and all of these efforts are designed not to push it back, but to bring it forward and to put it in the right place. Right now, you're suggesting that we make Mountain View a sports complex, and I can assure you that right now, Mountain View is a sports complex. So the Performing Arts Center would benefit more from being a standalone facility and the crown jewel of our community. I think, again, Mr. Fast explained it very well. Nothing here should push the Performing Arts Center back anywhere. It is uppermost and at the front of our minds, as you can tell. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Barb Erickson, 123081. Thank you for this opportunity to do this and meet at these member board exchanges. I'm from the Water Volleyball Club, and we actually appreciate the fact that you're moving forward with Mountain View. We're looking forward to the new rec center and the pool and our opportunity to change our location from Oakmont. We did form a committee, and we're working on design, and we had an opportunity recently to play at Paradise Resort Park near Sun City. So we've played with that group for a couple of weeks, and we've gotten some new ideas, and we're incorporating those into our thoughts on the new pool. Our president, Scott Harrington, has planned a sanctioned event in September, and we hope to have about 100 players from 4 different 55-plus communities to play at Oakmont, and so we can kind of get this thing going and getting some interest in water volleyball. We also like to thank you for that new filtration system at Oakmont. It is really amazing. It's wonderful. We can go home without a coating of salt on our arms. So if you guys need information, we're meeting every couple of weeks about the pool design, and if you'd like to join us, that'd be great. Just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam
Good
President.
information. Yes.
It was my understanding that they were getting a new pool to play volleyball at Mountain View, but they weren't losing their old pools at Oakmont.
They don't have dedicated space. They share that space. That's open for swimming and laps and.
But they're still going to be able to, they're going to have both, correct?
It's my understanding, since they're getting dedicated space at Mountain View, that that is their dedicated space. No, it's not.
I'm Dan Cohen, 146140, and I'm not here to talk about the sports center. Actually, I have an interesting issue. I reside on the North Golf Course, directly across from the clubhouse. And in the past 2 or 3 months, I've had numerous bicyclists going on my property, which includes a sidewalk, which is part of my property, onto the golf course, which is private property. And this is occurring numerous times during the day and even at night. I'm not sure where they're going, but they have backpacks. I can guarantee that they're not permanent residents of Sun City. And my concern is I have grandkids and they visit fairly often, and these bicyclists, when they're cutting through my property, they're not going typically at a slow rate of speed. They're moving pretty fast. And there's been a couple of times where I was out in my driveway with my car, and if I had opened my car door, they would have run right into it. I don't know where these bicyclists are coming from, but I do know that there is a house which I'm already talked to Showa about. It's vacant, and I know for a fact that the power has been shut off in this house. And I've seen these bicycles on the front porch, flashlights inside the house, and it seems to be increasing every week. And I could offer, the only suggestion I could offer is that maybe you could post more signage up on the golf course. But these bicyclists, I've actually talked to a couple of them, and they don't pay any attention. Possibly they're heading over to Fry's, but I have seen them at night, late at night, and Fry's is only open till 11 o'clock. One night at about midnight, my wife and I were sitting out by our fire pit, and this one bicyclist came up, had a lantern on his handlebars, and he was holding on to another bike with no rider on it. What he's doing out at 12 o'clock on private property, I have no idea, but if there's anything that you could do to maybe alleviate that, because I feel like it's an accident waiting to happen.
Madam President? Thank you, sir. Unfortunately, the criminal element uses these golf courses as their superhighway. That's how they go from neighborhood to neighborhood. They pick out their homes. They're going to burglarize. They can do it in the cloak of darkness. The posse is working on trying to make this better. Also, call the sheriff, because we have been working closely with the sheriffs, and if anyone is on our properties and they're caught, they can be prosecuted. So please call the sheriff, call the posse, ask for the commander, Mark, sit down with him, talk to him, tell him about this home. And I'm sure that he will get in touch with the right people to help you.
When I talked to the Larry at Showa last week for about an hour, he's aware of some of the issues in this house, and I was informed that that house has been in litigation with attorneys for over a year, and
I have one of those in my neighborhood. It's been vacant since 1997.
yeah.
So, and I went the route complaining and trying to get things done, and you just run into walls. I think your best bet now is work with the posse and see if they can help you with the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I do okay?
Christy Swanson, 137-489. I think. I have a question that I hope is rhetorical because we've got the lake project coming up on us right now. And so I'm wondering what is, and I know I'm a broken record about traffic, but what are the plans for traffic management during this lake renovation? Because I'm talking about all the trucks coming in and out. And is there a plan to get trucks one way coming in and one way going out? And what about parking for those of us who want to just look at what's going on?
There's a plan. The contractor is going to be using one entrance to the lake off of 105th. And that's going to be their entrance, in and out, trucks, whatever.
In and out. One street for in and out then.
Correct, one street.
Is there going to be closed to other traffic?
No, it's really, I mean, if you were aware of that little section of 105th, it's like there's offices and a condo. We're not closing that street to people that live there nearby. We have staff at that location also from Lakeview, our accounting, IT department, and our storage. We will be blocking off some of the parking stalls on the cul-de-sac part of that to accommodate the construction and give some space to the contractor.
Well, I just want to make sure that there is plans for traffic management and the streets being, what's the word I want, beefed up in advance of all this traffic. The streets that are there right now are going to be bearing much greater weight than the average weight that they bear. Is that going to be beefed up at all?
I don't think there's a lot we can do about the public street. The trucks are legal on the street. They will be coming in and out of the construction entrance. There's no current plans for any traffic control, as you say, like flaggers, or we just, that has not been discussed. And if it becomes a problem, we would raise that with the contractor. But right now, I think they have a pretty good plan to go in and out of the lake on the south side to accommodate the debris removal, and there are various pieces of equipment to install the new liner.
Well, I'm just concerned about the weight of all those trucks coming in and out and what it's going to do to the street. Because those aren't roads, those are streets. So just wondering if we're going to beef them up beforehand or not. I guess not. And is there going to be any designated looky-loo parking? Because there are going to be a lot of people that want to look and see what's going on. Are people going to be told to go to Lakeview and watch from Lakeview, or are they going to be told to go somewhere else, or what?
So we're not going to have established parking for looky-loo parking. I mean, we would prefer that we don't have a lot of interference with the trucks and with the construction and such, but at this time, I don't believe we're planning on closing the, Viewpoint Lake Park. And so, that, Lakeview will still be open. So that is a venue that you could probably potentially look from, but we're not going to encourage that.
Well, these are a bunch of old people with time on their hands, so I think we're all going to be wanting to see what's going on there. And also, I do think that I didn't mean to make you guys laugh. Well, yeah, I did. But my concern is that one of these old ladies or gentlemen is going to get on that road, on that street, and they're going to end up trapped between two big trucks, and they're not going to know what to do. That's my fear.
The construction happens in the state and in the city all over the place, and this is not anything that's anything greater than any other construction project. All safety measurements will be taken, care of, and we're going to rely on our vendors to make sure that they comply. We're not using first-time vendors. These guys have been there and done that. This isn't the first lake that they've mitigated.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys listening to my lame ideas. But
not lame ideas.
I'm worried. I'm worried sick about this lake.
So, I would say that, if you're that concerned, I would, stay away from 105th and Thunderbird.
I do plan.
During when they're removing the slime and sludge from the bottom, which is probably, what is it, a 2-week time frame that they're removal?
Backer trucks, yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically going to be a 2-week time frame where there's going to have trucks going in and out of there at a heavy pace. But other than that,
Are you going to work with the Independent or anybody or the website about publishing a schedule?
So we are.
What's going on there?
Yes. So I'm in contact with the HOA president, Mary Ann, and so I just published a brief schedule of, I shouldn't say brief, an elongated schedule of what's going on currently, and we are having a meeting on May 26th here for the homeowners to ask questions, and then we would open up to the general public to answer questions as well. And we'll have Pace here, and Mike and I will be here. So May 26th, it will be from 1 to basically 12:30 to 2:30. And we'll publish that. All of this will be published. We just set this up. We just had a meeting with Pace last week. So we just set up making sure that we had space for it. So, and that's the plan, is to communicate on a monthly basis.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
And I'm glad that I'm asking rhetorical questions. I really am. But my big fear is that this lake is the signature of Sun City. This is our identity. And my prayers are with all of us as we get into and get out of that lake as fast as we can, as efficiently as we can.
That's the plan.
As safely as we can.
That's the plan.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Sargent, 122262, and I'm here just to say that Best Friends Dog Club really appreciates the fact that the members of the RCSC Board of Directors took time out of their hectic and busy schedules to visit our training yard, meet with our club officers, and witness firsthand how our training operates, and to further discuss our hopes to achieve a year-round schedule filled with more club events and social activities, along with more dedicated and specialized training opportunities. It makes us as a club feel good to know that there are those willing to take the time to listen and to understand our concerns and our hopes for the future. Thank you so much for coming and meeting with us and listening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Swenson, 135906, and I'm desperately trying to find a way to make this more than 30 seconds. To the staff, I just want to thank you for your hard work and for people not assuming that you know what you're doing. That really bothers me. Now, to my point, I have some concerns about what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know.
with COVID and all that, I don't think anything has been published about the filtration at our public buildings and the air exchange. Are we meeting CDC guidelines, particularly the MERV 13 filtration? I'm concerned mostly about Mountain View because I'm in the club there.
So I don't know what the CDC guidelines are. I do know that we monitor our employees who work in these facilities, and as of today, we have no employees that are out on COVID. And quite honestly, throughout this entire process and COVID, at the height, we only ever had 14 employees out. So I'm assuming, I don't know that I can attribute that to the filtration system, but I don't believe that there's an issue with the filtration system.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but Mountain View, you've got dozens and hundreds of people and then thousands of people coming through and sitting together tightly. And I'm surprised that you don't have a standard for what your filtration would be, which is a 13 filter. So I wish you would look into that. And the air exchange as well. That number I don't know. Thank you.
We'll look into that as we get down the road.
Hi, Celeste Highland, 114334. My concern is a general concern regarding Sun City and our availability to get new people to come here. There was a conversation about changing it from City of Volunteers. Let's look at what 50 and 60-year-olds want. You know what? They want new facilities. They want maintained facilities. They want to have a nice performing arts center. They want all of their facilities to be maintained. And I have a concern about, if you look just at Fairway and the coping at that pool right now, it's crusting off. That's just one facility that needs maintenance. Right now over at Mountain View, I know there's going to be, there are a lot of updates and a new construction project. They just, I believe, closed the spa. My concern is, are we providing the highest optimum use of services and potential entertainment and fun activities for our people? We want to attract young, new residents, and what do they look for? Let's look at their demographic. They want to be entertained, they want to have fun, and they want good facilities. I want good facilities because if you let your facilities go, it costs you a lot more to maintain them. Let's look at our technology infrastructure. If you go to Sun City West, where many people who work here live, and I wonder why, their infrastructure for technology is far superior to what ours is now. Now, you guys know this, but if we drag our feet, we're going to get farther and farther behind. If we do not do maintenance on the areas that need maintenance, it's going to cost us more and more money. We want to have a good quality, futuristic area. Yes, we're the original Sun City. Do all the facilities have to have a not as updated? If you look at any new area, new senior 55+ community, one of the first things they put in is a performing arts center. Then they have nice, clean facilities. I mean, I went to the pool at Fairway last week. I couldn't believe what's going on with the coping there. How come there's not a work order in the queue for that? And then if you look over at Mountain View, yes, it's going to be replaced, but in the meantime, things should be to a standard. And we want to be proud of our facilities. This is a wonderful community, but it requires that we continue to maintain it properly, and there gets work orders put in, and we think about our future generations of people coming here. Just for the theater club itself, the Players Club, that's a 60-year organization celebrating 60 years. All right, so there's been many performances there, but there are many other clubs who will use that facility. And yes, our new people we want to attract, they want entertainment opportunities. And so if we just think about that, I just want to one other thing I wanted to ask you about. I'm a newbie bowler. I have not been bowling very long, and I want to be able to go in the wintertime to be able to practice. Guess what? There are very few windows left in there for me to go practice bowling because we've sold all our bowling options to different leagues. Not just Sun City leagues, which I have no problem with, but a lot of external people using our bowling facilities. So now the leagues are over and I can practice, but in the winter when I wanted to just go and bowl like on a Wednesday night or something, no, because our bowling alleys need maintenance, guess what? They have to reserve a couple extra lanes during a league, which means Sun City people cannot go and practice bowling when they want to. Well, who originally paid for these facilities? Guys, let's think about this. Do we want a futuristic community that is going to attract and draw new people? Well, that's all about maintenance. That's all about taking care of updating our facilities. And you know, if you don't do it right away, you get farther and farther behind. So please be cognizant of that and start getting some planning going with that, because it's very important for our future. Or we're gonna get, if you stay flat, stagnant, basically you're falling behind. That's what happens. If you're just content with where you are, guess what? Tomorrow you're falling behind. You have to continually work on this process. And you know, I know bowling was not on the front page of the paper a couple weeks ago, but golf was. You go by, golfers who live in Sun City can't even get time on the golf course. Same thing for the bowlers. And then I saw a little thing here, well, when we build a new performing arts center, maybe we can garner revenue. Well, I personally think for, you know, we pay our rec fee, which is very, you know, very reasonable fee. But the first priority should be our residents. So please, it shouldn't be outside people. I hear our bowlers come in on Friday nights because I have a favorite team and I watch them on Friday nights. They come in, boy, the bowling is so cheap. Well, why is the price of outside bowlers almost the same price, 35 cents difference than what Sun City residents pay? I mean, hey, that's the same issue kind of as we're having with the golf. And then I saw where you're saying, oh, we're going to maybe possibly garner revenue from the new center. And I'm thinking, is that going to bump clubs and performing arts groups that want to use the center out? I think there's kind of a slant on how these facilities are being used. Yes, we want to maintain revenue to keep the cost down maybe on our yearly fees, but at the same time, our priority needs to be our residents. Well, thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate that, and I hope I've given you some good food for thought on some concerns that people might have. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I just wanted to clarify one thing regarding the revenue source for the theater. That was a suggestion made by a member like yourself who came up as a reason why we should.
I just don't want it to bump out.
I understand. I just want to make sure that we're not promoting that. That was a member suggestion.
Just so that everybody, if they want to register or schedule an event, that they can actually have the opportunity.
Got it.
There's going to be a lot of different groups that want to use that facility.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
If I could address the repair and maintenance. I guess when I started here as Director of Finance 3 years ago, our Director of Operations made a conscious decision to basically increase our repair and maintenance budget considerably versus being more reactive. So we've become much more proactive in terms of repair and maintenance. I would put our facilities, and I've toured some of the other locations, I'd put our facilities up as facilities that are very highly maintained. And if there is an issue at a place, there's no doubt with 8 facilities, there's going to be issues. I would recommend that you fill out a comment card. Our B&I folks, building infrastructure folks, they do roughly 200 to 300 work orders every month maintaining our facilities. So they're hard at work maintaining our facilities. So I just want to, I guess, show that our folks are actually doing a really good job, I think, in terms of that. But if there's issues, please raise them. We do have the properties committees as well, and they go out and we listen to what they, the feedback that they provide as well. And, you know, we address those issues, and then they create work orders for issues like that may be seen by the property committee as well. So we're doing a lot to address that. So thank you.
Madam President.
Yes.
Mr. Cook, are we still presently maintaining Mountain View until we break ground?
Yes, we are maintaining it, but in terms of if you're referring to the interior spa, you know, we made a decision based on cost as well as usage. So if that was a highly utilized function or amenity, you know, we probably would have made a different decision. But at this point, we have 6 people per day using that spa, and the cost really didn't justify it, considering that in 18 months to 2 years, we'd be tearing it down. So we made both a fiscal decision as well as a utilization decision.
And the mini golf?
And mini golf?
Yes.
So yes, everything will be maintained to ensure that, you know, usage can be accomplished. Now, again, we're going to make decisions. If something's going to cost, you know, 6 figures and above, we're going to take a look at it to make sure that it makes sense to spend the money when we know that it's going to be taken down in a couple years. So, but to answer your question is, yes, we are maintaining those facilities.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good morning. Sherry Guida, number 151324. It's nice to see everybody who's here. I've only been involved in coming to the exchanges or the board meetings since December due to working and then COVID. One of the issues that seems most urgent is participation of the community. If there's 30-something thousand people, I don't even see 1% of those people here today. Is there a mechanism as a solution to look at our clubs? They all have committees for this, that, and the other thing. Why isn't there a committee based on Sun City bylaws that there should be a committee for each club that mandates attendance, that now mandates more people coming in that would not say, oh, I'm not interested in being political. Well, it's not political. It's about how you run your activities in your life. So if each club is mandated to send, you know, to have a committee of 3, 4, 5 people, that one of them needs to show up at each one of these board meetings or the member board exchanges, so that there is more participation from the community. Start there, and then those people might get other people involved in coming to these meetings. Thank you.
Madam President. Ma'am, I know that John's not here today. He's ill, but I know he is working on a presentation of just what you just said. So, you know, please hang in there, and I'm sure he will come up with it. Thank you.
Hi, Joanne Greeny, 106561. And just to start, I am totally in favor of having Sun City slogan as the city of volunteers. And that is one of our pillars for this reliable, livable, affordable place to be in retirement. The clubs, I've belonged to several, and recently I have joined the Prides. Because I'm not athletic, and so I was looking for something that I can do to help out, to get to know a larger number of people. So that is where we have so many wonderful people that are helping Sun City keep it clean, keep it beautiful. As you all know, there's one person in the Prides group that just takes care of graffiti. I think that is so cool. I mean, we don't need to pay somebody to do all these little jobs. This is where we can step in and help our community, love our community, keep it beautiful. And let's see, and that's why, you know, I don't want to pay the price of Sun City West and Sun City Grand for their annual assessment. I personally really love what we've got going. Yes, I put in work orders when things aren't right at the gym, and I'll put in maybe 3 if I haven't heard back. But at least I'm doing something to let the people in charge know that this needs to get fixed, or this equipment has now been broken at the Bell Center for 3 months. Tell me why. So we just need to be more responsible for our community, for our happiness, and to keep Sun City beautiful the way it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Ben Roloff, 12663. First, a request, and that could we maybe have at least one of these microphones that you, at the next member board exchange, that you bring the podium back? Some of us are a bit bashful and not used to public speaking, and we really would like to hide behind it and hang on, you know, whatever.
These are the bashful people?
Yeah. Anyway, I haven't stopped and chatted a little bit about RCSC history for a while, but I'd like to start in 2022, jump back to 1972, 1982, and back to 2022, and I can do this really quickly, because I think it'll be somewhat, could possibly even be somewhat instructive. Starting with 2022. Director Wilson, at the last meeting, brought forth a suggestion to be put into the budget about updating the restrooms at the Lakeview Bowling Alley. I couldn't be more supportive of that. I have been in that building, I can't even tell you how many times in 25 years. I've never stopped and looked at the bathrooms behind alley 3 and 4. I did the other day. They shout 50 years old. It's time. Historically, why is Lakeview Lanes there? And that's a really instructive question. Because in 1972, Sun City had only, phase 1 was done, phase 2 was half done, phase 3 was just an idea. But the developer, Del Webb, said, what do you guys really want going forward? And he said that to everybody living here, one of those community polls that we don't do. And he came to an RCSC quarterly meeting to announce the results. A man by the name of Owen Childress, one of the vice presidents. And to a cheering crowd, says the #1 amenity desired in Sun City was bowling. It wasn't here. They wanted bowling. And the interesting part about that is they had data to drive it, the people who wanted it. What they had was the number of second shifts that had to be accommodate Sun City bowlers in Glendale and Phoenix. Now you think about that. These are Sun City people driving with 1970 headlights on ill-lit streets to a second shift. That was quite a challenge. So of course they wanted it here. But they were able to tell them how many teams at this bowling alley, how many teams? #2 request, a movie theater. We want a movie theater. But there was no data. It was that field of dreams we're talking about. Build it and they will come. Build it and we will create a club that we think will want to use this gymnasium. I hope that works. I really hope that works, but if I was on your board, I would really, that would cause me pause to think about this whole thing. Or maybe even about the walking track going around the top of that gymnasium when there's one up the street. Maybe there's data for that that's suggesting it. Maybe it's convenient to do it because we've already got the design from the same architect who built one up the street. That's a possibility. I would think about that at least a little bit. This is going to be a wonderful project at Mountain View. It's going to be the most expensive project that we've ever done in Sun City, regardless of how we do it. One of the things I'd like to hear a little bit more as we go forward, which was some of the things brought out today. When we planned in Sun City for the theater that was not built, that had been planned up at Bell, for 2 years, 17 performing arts groups met to plan the use of that theater that got cut, 17 of them. Now, don't get nervous, players. The players were deferred to for all of the decisions about seating, theater seating, size of the stage, lighting, sound systems, dressing rooms. The rest of the performing arts groups, including the Sousa Band, the a cappella choirs, the handbell ringers, the Sun City Symphony, they all wanted to know, how are we going to schedule this so we can work around? Are these groups meeting? If not, will they be meeting before we build that center, regardless of where it is? They should. I can't wait. I've been waiting for 25 years, and I'm really old. And I don't know how many, I'd really like to see something built in my lifetime. Really. So.
Bill Pearson, 133438. I just had to get up and speak after Ben for a couple of reasons. One, don't write down, Sue. If you ever want people to appreciate Sun City and how we were built and why we were successful, invite Ben, who's not shy to stand in front of a microphone, by the way, with or without a podium, to present some classes. People will show up in droves. We used to do that on a regular basis in Sun City, and people loved it. Again, it's just an aside. I don't have a solution yet because I have some questions. I was stunned to hear Alicia and a couple of others that are very pro-RCSC, as we all like to be, some more so than others, speak at the last meeting, and they brought up some issues about golf. And I was shocked. I mean, literally shocked. Although I've written volumes on it, I just always have questions. I can, Alan, to your comment, I can go ferret out kind of from the year-end financials data, albeit imperfect. I had done a calculation that there were roughly 125 to 150 non-resident full-play golfers. Just my best guess, and it turns out, somebody said it today, there was 134. That's data. That's what Dale's whole pitch has been. The data has to become at least a portion of the driving impetus behind the decisions we make, which I agree with. Not the end result, but certainly data-driven. So this brings me to the question relative to golf. Again, my best guess is that we have 1,250 full-play residents buying passes. Can anybody tell me if that's true? If it's 1,228 or 1,000 or 1,422? And I'm not asking Brian to step up. I'm asking each of you as board members. Can you tell me that?
Well, I'll tell you, he did tell us that. Do I remember it? Yeah.
Okay, then at least he told you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Brian, total number? Again, my guess is 1,250. I don't know.
Mr. Pearson, I don't have the exact numbers in my...
It doesn't have to be perfect.
But you are close, yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Again, I just go to the year-end financials, divide it by 1,550, and I come out with a number that's in that 1,250 range. So with the 134 and the 1,250, we're now pushing upwards towards 1,400 full-play memberships. Bill, I think you said it at a meeting, or Brian said it at a meeting. Last year, 2021, did we hit like almost 350,000 rounds of golf? Again, those are numbers, I don't see them anywhere, but I remember somebody reporting that. I saw somebody report that there were 4,200 Sun City residents that golfed. I would have guessed it a little higher again, but I'm just repeating what somebody said online. So if the number is 4,200 people, and 1,400, including outside golfers, are buying full play passes, and we know we jumped up about, I'll say 50,000 rounds last year. I know the number that Gene said from the stage was always about 3,000 rounds, or 300,000 rounds was kind of the target market. The next question becomes, if I were seated on the board, and I'm not, but it's a question I would have for all of you is, of that 1,400 full play membership purchases, full play passes, how many of that 350,000 rounds came from that very small percentage of people, less than 25%, by the way, or somewhere in that neighborhood? How many came from full play passes? Anybody know?
Brian gave us a very nice report when we got together to go over some of this stuff. A lot of facts and figures. Can't remember all.
I don't know if I have that exact
number
written down, but it's close to in the 40 to 50% of our, it's not just the annual pass play, that's the surcharge pass play too, but 40 to 50% of our rounds are by a pass holder, which includes the surcharge pass also.
Well, and again, here's the difference, and this is why this matters, because data really matters. And people complain, the surcharge actually, every time they step on a golf course, they pay more. A full play pass, every time they step on a golf course, pays less. I mean, that's just the math of it. It isn't good or bad, it's just the math. And so ultimately, you got to question if exactly how many, because the surcharge, I think, is a reasonable solution to the problem. The full play pass really forces people to play more book times, and then compound it because when you buy the full play pass, you get access to the web portal sooner. Is that true? It's not. Okay. Which finally leads me to the question, does anybody know when the decision was made to allow non-resident full play passes to use our web portal? Because when I was on the board, the golfers that I was on the board with were crazed that we were even selling Golf Now passes, and we were only a couple. I mean, it was a couple a day. But somewhere along the line, and I appreciate the fact that you didn't know, in your last meeting it was abundantly clear you didn't know how that happened. Who made that decision? Because very simply put, somebody that doesn't live here should never have access to our courses before those people that do live here. And then ultimately, the idea that more rounds is somehow better may not be the right way to measure success of golf, because if 35% of the rounds played come from full play passes, and we have people that are willing to pay $35 a round to step on the course but can't book, we're kind of missing it. So my solution is look at the numbers. I'm glad to hear that Brian gave you a presentation. I'm a little disappointed that people didn't. I mean, why I know these numbers is beyond me, because why would anybody? But you got to dig to find it. It's all there. He can tell you exactly how many full play passes there are. He can tell you exactly how many rounds are booked by full play passes, by surcharge passes, by full play pay, by non-outside residents. All of that matters as we go forward, because the cost for a round of golf is going to do nothing but go up. Cost of fertilizer, cost of water, cost of maintenance, cost of labor, cost to convert desert lands to desert landscaping are all issues that going forward are going to become, well, they were this big before, they're going to be this big. And you better have a handle on all of it. So my solution is that you understand the numbers better than I do, because I can't make any decisions, but you guys can. Thank you.
I'm not sure what it's. I'm not sure I got that. Please.
I just wanted to answer the question as to when the decision was made to give the non-resident pass holders access to the portal. That decision was made when we went to the automated system, because prior to the automated system, non-resident pass holders still were able to come to the golf course and participate in the draw as it was previous to the automated system. It was due to COVID, so sometime in 2000, yes. 2019 at some point. So the only reason they have access to the portal is so that they continue to have the same benefit they had previous to the COVID restriction. But they don't get earlier access than.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Joan Fensky, 39949. A question was brought up at the last member board meeting about the apartments that are being built on Royal Oaks. And the question was, are they going to be charged the PIF fund? And are they going to receive a rec card for, $496? That would be my question.
So to answer that question quickly is yes, and currently Royal Oaks pays us half of the assessment, and then if a resident decides that they want to become a pass holder, then they would pay the other $248. And we have had a discussion with their CEO and their CFO, and so we're currently in negotiations on the PIF, but the plan is to charge them for all of the new residents that they're building.
Okay, thank you. And then also, last month, you made people, after they got done asking the question, you asked the audience to raise your hand if they were in favor of it. Did you discontinue that, or did you forget, or is it not necessary?
No, I didn't forget. I got a lot of feedback, pro and con, on that.
Okay.
So I'm not quite sure how to proceed with it, so I just thought I'd just wait and see if anybody said anything, but I mean, if it wasn't a big deal. You know, it started out where I felt like we were getting a better feel for everything, but then at the end, every hand went up for every point. It was like we lost, so I got to word it differently if we're going to do it. It started out good, but it didn't end.
Well, there are a lot of very important comments being made.
Okay. So you would prefer that
I would.
Okay. Show of hands. All right, there you go. Duly noted.
Hi there, Sherry Marcio, 14465. My comments are about technology. We threw six figures, $500,000 at the problem for a 2-year fix for our technology infrastructure. It's been a few months. I've reviewed the management reports and the tech committee notes, and I guess I just want to understand the bigger plan. Are we just replacing hardware, software, cabling, and Wi-Fi? 2 suggestions. I'd like to see status updates listed as a project on the management report. Dollars spent, dollars invested, things like that. I'd also like to see an updated work session on how things are going and the trajectory of how we're going to avoid this very same situation in the future. We have bigger issues like security, accessibility, growing an IT department that can support all of this new technology. It's not just about new equipment, but we need a strategy for our tech needs for today and tomorrow, and it should be shared and communicated to the membership. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. We didn't get a bylaws committee update. That would have been helpful.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Show of hands? See, you thought I'd forget.
Chris Oliver, right now I forget my number, it'll come back to me. I just want to bring up a point about golf. You had said that rounds of play were up. It's easy to say rounds of play are up. What I'd like to see is how much of that is outside play and how much is actual residents. And one other thing, it was brought up last meeting that the tournaments that come from outside are getting premium times, and golfers can't get on the golf course. So I'd like that readdressed. Thank you.
Okay, I know we discussed this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Wait, Alan, just wait a sec.
Just to answer the current mix of play based on last year was 85% of our rounds are either residents or guests, and 15% would be non-resident play. So that's a combination of tournaments and the non-resident pass holders.
Right, and didn't we talk about the fact that the slots are open, and if a league is playing but they don't want to take the early slots and time comes up, we will give those?
That was specific to the Tuesday play question where Ms. Brown referenced that she had outside play in front of her on Tuesdays. And that was mostly because that particular league chooses not to take the earliest tee times. So 5 days in advance, those times open to resident play. What's not taken by resident play is available 3 days in advance to public play. So it is possible that the public play is in front of a Tuesday league.
Okay.
If the league chooses not to use those times.
So just to make it clear, the residents have 5 days.
Well, the league is put on,
Their spot.
they have their spot for as many times as they need. If they need the whole morning, they get the whole morning. The Tuesday league play is usually anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours for most of the clubs. Some are larger, some are smaller.
Okay, so what you're saying is that a league assigns their spots, what's ever open 5 days before was opened up to members.
Correct.
And then if they don't choose those times, then it's open to anyone. Okay.
Correct.
I want to make sure. I know we discussed this.
With respect to that statistic, about 85% of our rounds being residents or resident guests, I'd asked at the last board meeting, I think it was, if we could distinguish between residents and resident guests and non-resident guests. So if a resident invites 5 people from Sun City Grand to come and play with them, right now that's all fitting into that 85% category. And I think I heard you say that that would be quite an easy thing to do. Are we going to be able to see those numbers broken down?
Those numbers are provided to the board every month on the report that is sent to you by accounting. But
okay. Do we have any idea?
I can break it down.
Yeah, do we have any idea how that impacts the 85-15?
Well, if I understand your question, I may misunderstand your question. You said if a non-resident brings, a non-resident cannot bring guest play. Any play that accompanies a non-resident would be considered non-resident play. Only a resident can bring guest play.
Right, and my question I think there is that if a resident brings non-resident guests, do those non-resident guests get counted in the resident play numbers or the non-resident play numbers?
They're counted as a guest.
Counted as non-resident.
They're counted as a guest.
It's in that activity.
Which is a benefit of being a resident, is the ability to bring guests.
Well, I understand that. Okay, maybe we could talk about this another time, but I think that in the last management report, that 85% or 87% number was a reflection of residents and residents' guests together. And I'd simply ask, can we parse that out so that we can actually see what residents, what proportion of the total number are actually residents and neither non-residents that are coming in and not guests of residents. So that was just simply my question, and I thought that we had said that that would be an easy number to provide.
Well, it is provided every month.
I think
so the report that Laura McDonald sends out, she just sent it out last week, actually has the, we have the different categories: annual no fee, cardholder, daily guest, staff, non-resident no fee, public play, 18 holes. And then we have that also for 9 holes. So all of that data is broken out and is sent out to the board and staff.
Yeah, you could probably, work backwards and do the math to if you get to the exact percentage that you're looking for. But I think it's all there.
Madam President?
Yes.
it's my understanding that one of the groups that had been discussed as an out-of-area tournament actually ended up being a membership tournament that had one player that was a non-resident. Is that correct, Brian?
We do have outside tournaments that have resident play accompany them from time to time. But
in that instance...
In reference to the one event that Ms. Brown brought up at the North Course when she got up to speak at the last meeting, that was a mistake on our part, that tournament should not have been booked on that day, and that has been addressed with my staff.
I understand that, but one of the tournaments that was discussed ended up being actual residents with the exception of one person.
Yeah, that's possible too, yes.
Alicia Brown, 50475. This is back to Brian with the outside play. You know, you throw these numbers around about increased play, could we have a monetary amount? Because I'd really like to know. I am totally aware that the closer to a tee time you get, the cheaper it gets for outside play. So we need to address that. One other issue. We have an outside person that doesn't live in Sun City that belongs to one of our ladies' golf leagues. How does that happen? Because she has bought the pass. Why? It's kind of like the bowling thing. We're just giving our rights away to everybody with nobody watching out for us. Thank you.
Show of hands. Thank you. Okay. I think just personally listening to that, I will definitely look at that. I mean, we're going to look at doing the break even. If we remove that, you know, what can we financially support? You know, do we have 2 bowling alleys? Do we have 1 bowling alley? You know, I mean, those are the decisions that, you know, once we do the analysis, we can come back and take a look at it and say, is this what you really want? It might not improve your accessibility. It just might reduce the numbers of things that we have. But who knows? Yes, sorry. Go ahead. Anybody else?
Jean Totten, 148753. Director Lenevsky, I think you were going to give us the report for the bylaw ad hoc committee. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding us.
The ad hoc committee has met every week for, I believe, at least 2 hours per week. Originally, they were open meetings. After a couple weeks, it was determined by the committee, and I certainly had this feeling, but it was unanimous, that it was best to close the meetings. And the reason, I'll give you my reasoning on that. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the committee. Having been involved in negotiations for 40 years, it became evident that we had a choice. And the choice was either to get the bylaws done, or which would mean a great deal of negotiation between people where people, in fact, would on occasion change their minds about certain things and to come to some type of agreement. We have made a great deal of progress, but I'm not going to go into the specifics of the progress because then, again, it's closed at this point. When this is done, what will occur is it will go to the board. Like I anticipate as in any other board issue, that the public will have an opportunity to weigh in on it. But to get there, we have to work very carefully, very quickly, or we can spend what was the concern of the annual meeting, years doing this. I gave my word that it was not my intention to spend years. This is a bigger project than I thought. It's going to take longer than I thought, but we're making tremendous progress. And I think everybody on the committee, but again, I can't speak for them, I can only speak for myself, would agree. One of the things, and I'm going to go a little bit of how I anticipate this happening, when the committee was appointed, I specifically, and I know others did, wanted people who did not necessarily agree with me. Because this is a committee that's trying to get the way the rules work for everybody. And it was abundantly clear to me, in some cases, I was in the minority, and I'm not going to go into specifics. And rather than spending weeks arguing points that will never be unanimous in the committee, one of the things I would like to see, and I will urge the board to do, is when it is presented to the board, that if I am in the majority or the minority, whatever it is, that the people who are in the minority get an opportunity to explain why they do not agree with the majority. But I and the co-chair, before the committee was even picked, wanted to work towards a consensus. And that is basically what I can say. And I've heard what other people have said. I'm aware of the transparency problem, which is why I wanted it open for the first couple weeks. But more importantly, I want this to be successful. And that's the report I have.
Thank you. I'm sorry that it wasn't kept open because the bylaws are going to affect the members quite significantly.
I understand your position, Jean. I appreciate your position, which is why originally I wanted to have it open. But again, as you're aware, during the board meetings, members have had a great deal to say about a lot of things. I would encourage that at that point, but in order to have something to address, it was determined by the committee, and again, I endorse that. I'm not in the minority on that. I endorse that. That we had to get something done so that we could get there. So I understand your concern. I appreciate your concern. We just have a different of opinion on that, and I respect your viewpoint.
Thank you. One other thing.
Go.
I believe it was mentioned, I don't even remember where, that the next annual membership meeting will be October 11th. I think that was a date that was thrown out. Do you think that those bylaws will be ready, or will we, members who do get to attend, there again will be no point in us bringing forth any motions because they still will have to be addressed by the board?
Okay, that's a really good question. I know what I'd like to have happen, which is I'd like them to be done by then. But as I stated to you, it's a bigger project than I thought. We have 2 months off, which I intend, and I think the board members, the committee members, should I say, intend to work through, at least through part of it. We've arranged for Zoom meetings. The problem, of course, is that it's going to have to go through, we do not want to make a legal mistake. Let's start with that, right? So when they're completed, there's going to have to be a legal opinion given on whether or not we made a legal mistake. For instance, we don't want to jeopardize our tax status. We don't want to do something inadvertently against Arizona law or federal law. If it were not for the 2 months in the summer, I'd say it would be my anticipation, not a guarantee, that that would be done. But because I haven't worked through the summer before, I don't know how this is extremely going to work completely. I can't answer that. But it is my goal to do that. I will work diligently to do that. I've expressed to the committee members that I want that done, if possible. But what I don't want to have is a mess that comes because we want to have it by a certain date. Okay?
Thank you very much. I appreciate very much the video and the fact that they're coming out so quickly after a meeting. But I also wondered, are these charts going to be posted somewhere so that if we want to go back and look at them, we could? Because it's a little hard when you're watching a video to try to get the details of what's going on. This is like the...
That would be your suggestion?
Would that be my suggestion? Yes.
Yes,
yes.
okay. So you're
If
making
possible.
a suggestion.
Right.
Okay.
And then I won't have to sit and take pictures to jog my memory of what I saw. I'm not picking on you today, honest. I know you're busy with the two, you've got two powerful committees, and I think you're on something else too, the focus committee.
Right.
You talked about a survey under the long-range planning committee. Wouldn't a survey almost constitute or show us that, no, I'm sorry, I hadn't written this down, and you can tell, that's when I don't speak eloquently. We got rid of our communications committee, and that to me was very sad. I think that we should still have a communications committee because communication and transparency go hand in hand. You've been talking about a report that Mr. Dutho gave you about golf. You all saw this report. Did we? We talk about transparency. We have to walk the talk as well. Is it a report that had private information in it that we couldn't see? Are there many reports like this? This is the transparency communication, but getting back to the survey, I know President Lair worked on a survey and was very disappointed that it never was approved. I think a survey is an excellent way to find out what you're, as the lady said, there's 30,000 people and we're lucky if there's 50 here. We need to find a better way to get to our community. I can't tell you how many times I've read on Facebook or in Nextdoor the number of members who will say, I've lived here 6 months. I didn't know there was a lake, or I didn't know we had a place that had free concerts. And I know that part of it is their responsibility. When they move into a place, they need to look into these things. But I guess I'm just rambling. So I just think a communication committee would be great.
Okay, so that's why I'm coming back to you now,
Yeah.
because you were rambling a little bit.
Right, I was.
So what you're making suggestions on is that this form here, the working document that we're using, should be published somewhere.
Yes.
That was one suggestion. And you also talked about bringing back the communications committee.
Yes. And I
you
don't
said
know how that
something
is
about the
done.
survey, but it was lost.
Okay, well,
Do a
this-
survey.
Alan said he was they were working on a survey in the long-range planning committee. And so that's great. I think he's got a lot of other projects, and that's where tying into communications, I thought, would make more sense.
One of the things that I talked about early on is that we are in communication with ASU.
Yes.
And talking to them about kind of our needs, not only survey of current members, but also from a marketing standpoint and looking at what future members, possible people that would consider moving to Sun City would need. So we are currently, right now, looking at some of that. And I will just say, from my little perspective, the survey, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you don't do it correctly, and you just put forms out, or you just talk to people, you get the people who are most interested in something will flood the box, and other people maybe not so much. And so you want to be accurate so that the numbers that you're presenting, the data, is accurate to the best of our ability. So that is something that, we are looking at.
Okay,
Okay?
great. Yes, thank you.
Madam President, can I address a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. The survey, the committee, the Long-Range Planning Committee, which, by the way, is open to the public again, appeared to be very enthusiastic about the survey. A subcommittee has been appointed. I had somebody working on appointing committees, has been appointed as working on that a little bit. I'll know a lot more this afternoon. Okay, and one of the things that they're interested in is they became aware that Sun City is working with ASU, or at least discussing it with Arizona State University, and that there may be an overlap or something like that. And as a result, I'm interested in is where we stand on that. But there appears to be enthusiasm for it. I haven't been really deeply involved in it. I've been much more involved in the bylaws committee, to be honest with you. But we have people working on that. Okay, thank you for your interest.
Ms. Totten?
Yes.
I'd like to address your comment about the communication committee. I was chairing that committee, gosh, I guess it was 2020 and first part of 2021. We were essentially down to one member, okay? And there were several board members that were coming to me and just kind of saying, gee golly, what are we going to do with this thing? Because, we have Joe Lynn running our marquees and doing our website and doing an excellent job. So I came up with this idea to repurpose the committee. Now, I understand there was some discussion about whether or not what I propose should be a committee or not, but my intention was to basically come up with a new way to communicate, okay? So we came up with this idea. Mike Dvorak had a really cool name, Sun City in Focus. I have this crazy excitement about doing this video stuff. So I started pulling some people together and saying, can we create some kind of, I don't really know what we call it, a video news magazine, where we feature things like Sun Bowl events, clubs, people of interest, and it's been received with a fair amount of enthusiasm. It's still growing. I mean, it started off really super clunky because mostly my fault because I had no idea what I was doing. But now over time, we've got some really, really good people that have a lot of skill sets. So to your comment, I'm certainly not opposed to a communication committee, but my experience with that committee was really what was there to talk about. I mean, we've got the internet. How do we use it? We've got marquees. How do we use it? So I'm hoping that in time, that as we improve these videos, both the content and the quantity, the number of them, that we can do a better job of putting the word out. What is Sun City all about? Right. Like for this next episode 6, we're going to put together some kind of like a highlight reel about the Sun Bowl concerts, kind of summarize all of them. And, to put the word out, not to the new up-and-comers, people that don't live here, but primarily to a little bit of an advertisement, if you will, for what goes on in the community. Because every day I hear somebody saying, I just met a lady the other day, said she didn't know we had 2 bowling alleys. So, to your point, yeah, we've got to do a better job of sharing. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Am I rambling on?
No, a little bit. I think what's come up here, and I think you have a very good point about the communications committee. What's happened is, you make a change, you evaluate it, you go back, but we're hearing a lot from you about transparency, and maybe there's a better way not to take anything away from Sun City in Focus. But I got your message loud and clear that we need to take a look at bringing back the communications committee, and it's on as a suggestion, so that will be addressed, regardless of how good or bad Sun City in Focus is.
It's kind of an old-fashioned thing, like a welcome wagon when people move in.
Exactly.
And I know some people think, oh my gosh, how can you possibly go back to that concept? But you have the ability to know who's moved in. If there was maybe a PR or marketing, and I know we all have that, but I just feel somewhere we're missing the boat. And I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Show of hands. Okay, we lost more than half of our group. I gotcha.
Mike Wendell, 145206.
Well, I'm sorry, just a second.
Not a vote.
it's not really a vote, but she made suggestions regarding releasing this information here somewhere. She talked about the survey, how important it is, and she made the recommendation about bringing back the communications committee. So there were actually 3 issues, which is difficult sometimes. That's why we always ask you to just do one issue at a time. I'm sorry, Mike.
Mike Wendell, 145206. I want to speak to the Communications Committee. I was one of the last members before it became Communications Through Technology, and then it morphed into the In Focus Committee. I was very disappointed when that committee was disbanded in that sense, and it became In Focus. However, I've seen the videos. I've actually gone to an In Focus committee meeting, exceptionally well run. Mike Egge's done a great job with In Focus, and his committee works hard to produce a quality product. Problem is it's one way. It's out to the public. Communications is a two-way structure, and you took that away. And President Lehr, you were chairman when I joined that committee, and I actually attended it for several months before you asked me to join. And we were attempting to do things, but in effect, we got shut down in terms of any access. Jolynn Higgins showed up to one meeting inside of like 2 years that I was involved. You know, communications. There are issues regarding website. There are issues regarding transparency. There are issues regarding taking in comments from people, suggestions, all these types of things that weren't really being addressed. And losing that committee took that away. And it's not something that, oh, well, now you got a technology committee going back looking at the website. We wanted to look at the website because there was a lack of two-way communication. It's old. It hasn't been changed since I moved here, and I've been here almost 4 years now. And as far as the Long-Range Planning Committee, they're looking at future people coming in, things that residents want, and everything else. Communication goes across the full board. It covers everything. And especially when you hear the term transparency keep coming up, that's where that should be discussed, because transparency goes across a lot of boundaries. Why isn't a report that was given about golf at least put up on the website? Is there something confidential about it? I went down, I asked for a copy of the presentation for the Technology Committee. That's my wheelhouse, 40 years in technology. I got it, no problem. But again, some things were redacted, and I looked at the Director of Finance, I'm sorry, I forgot his name right now, getting old, McCurdy. And we had a very nice conversation. I said, you know what you did doesn't prevent me from doing anything. It doesn't allow me to do anything. It was just a misunderstanding of technology in general. However, I think the person you hired is very good. I think he's got something going. But at the moment, we're not hearing about technology. We're not hearing about what's being done. In the moment, it's all remediation. We're just trying to catch up. Fix old equipment, replace it, put some things in, but there's still no talk about some things which technology maybe is doing, but even they're having closed meetings. They have open meetings, they have closed workshops, where talks about security are not being discussed as openly as I'd like to see. You know, you got the dog park. We got money in the bank. And if that's an important issue, and it's an important liability issue, if truly somebody's dogs went in there, attacked other dogs, and did things non-residents, we should do something about it. You need power? That's going to cost less than what you're spending on a lot of other things. Pull it out of that 10 million, 12 million, whatever it is, the rainy day account, as it's been claimed, which it's not, carry forward money. Deal with that important issue now. Don't wait for it. Don't wait for a suit to come up because somebody goes there and gets hurt and they decide to sue the RCSC. That's going to be far more costly than running a little electricity and lighting, signs. I'm not saying I have a solution to that, but bringing back communications gives a voice to try and across all these patterns, deal with transparency, deal with effective communication to and from members and the board. This is a great thing that you've brought back here, and it's proven to be very good. So that's all I really have
Okay.
to say.
So just so I've got this down, because you kind of go off and hit a lot of different topics. You're agreeing basically with Gene Totten that.
Bring
we
back
need to-
communications, yes.
Bring back
As
communications.
a standing committee.
As a standing committee.
With the original
Okay, I'm going to put that along with,
statement that it had of what it was supposed to do. Bring it back and let's really
with
use
its
it.
purpose, yeah.
Bring back its purpose and do it, and let it interact with technology if need be, long-range planning if need be, management to some degree, the board to some degree, and effectively, let's improve our communication. This is one great step, but more than once a month, we need something else to be happening, and we need things to improve, and we need to involve residents to come in. And if we're allowed to maybe do something like that, you might find more people now would be willing to join than what was going on a couple of years ago. And I spoke when it changed to communications through technology. I spoke to the board when it became in focus. I was really against it because I mourned the death of the communications committee and its true purpose. But as I said, in focus is a great product. You've put a great thing there. But at the cost of losing a communications committee, I still mourn that.
Okay.
Thank you.
President Blair?
Thank you very much.
I need to make a statement, just very briefly. I think I said the Long-Range Planning Committee was meeting this afternoon. If I said that, that is a mistake. It's the, okay, so don't show up for the Long-Range Planning Committee this afternoon. I just realized I have another committee meeting. Thanks.
Madam President. Oh, I'm down here.
I'm looking at,
I keep hearing the dog park come up today, and I just have one thought. Could we investigate using batteries and an inverter and a solar panel to keep the battery charged? Because we don't need a whole lot of power. We just need enough to be the lock mechanism. I was wondering if we could investigate to see if we could do something like that.
yeah, it's already down on the agenda that we're going to take a look at the whole safety, security, and access at the dog park. So bring your suggestions when we talk about that. All right. I believe you were first at the mic, or were you first? You want to flip for it? I don't.
Dave Whelan, 17077. I'm going to talk about golf, and Brian, it involves you, but only not per se. I've heard a lot of people talk about they can't get a tee time to play golf. And I'm wondering, and this is a rhetorical question, you can't get a tee time to play golf, period, or you can't get a tee time at your favorite golf course because the Mongolian horde has taken over the Willowbrook or something like that. I live on the South Course, and I see very few people during the day on weekends. It's just deserted. It's a very nice course, and it's just, I live close to the 15th hole. It's just me, the bunnies, and the quails. And we all have peaceful coexistence. You should check out tee times on any course if you're just there to play golf. True, South is a very long course, but hey, get out in some fresh air and enjoy it. As to the dog park, I wasn't going to say anything on this, but since it's come up a couple of times, there's a legal theory called assumption of risk, and I have it living on a golf course. I knew when I purchased the house that I lived on a golf course, and it was possible that golf balls were going to land in my yard, potentially breaking a window. I understood that. The dog park, assumption of risk. If you bring your dogs there and one dog bites another one, or whatever the case may be, anybody who's watched Judge Judy, Judge Mathis, People's Court, they explain to them on dog bite cases that your cause of action, as is known in law, is against the owner of the other dog. It wouldn't be against the RCSC. No, I'm not an attorney, so it's okay to like me. If this happens to you, I highly suggest that you go visit an attorney and explain the situation. How'd I do, Alan?
Always do fine, Dave.
Thank you.
And I believe all our dog parks do have that
Do
statement.
they have the
Yes, they
signage
do.
there?
Yes, they
Assumption
do.
there is? Okay, I stand corrected. That's it.
Thank you.
Alice Ritzman, 144148. I heard Jean say that the annual meeting might be as early as October 10th. And if that is the case, I would just recommend that you make that later. As you can see just by the amount of people that show up to these meetings, a lot of people in this community are just part-time. And I would like to see that meeting a little bit later. No guarantee that it will make for a bigger meeting, but it's very possible that it would. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, show of hands. People want it later? People want it earlier? Oh, okay. Done deal.
Hi again. Joanne Greeny, 106561. Very quickly, the issue that I would like to comment on is the reason why we have so few attendees here. And that is because this 9 a.m. on a weekday is when everybody wants to be at the gym. They want to be at the pickleball. They have to be at the doctor. They want to play golf. There are just everything else to do at 9 a.m. on a weekday. I would like to make a suggestion. Can we please take a look at some other times of the day, especially if we're trying to attract the younger people, 55 or so, that are still working. I mean, when I worked, I just retired 2 years ago. I couldn't attend any of these 9 o'clock meetings. Why can't we do mid-afternoon, late afternoon, early evening? That is going to be my suggestion. And to incentivize people to come. Maybe we want to have, I don't know if this might sound really off the wall, but I like having a reason, something fun. Maybe you can do a 50-50 raffle for everybody that shows up. RCSC gets half, and the person that they get their number, they get to have some extra money. Just other reasons to incentivize people to participate. And yes, I agree with the other lady that spoke earlier. A board member from every club really should attend some of these meetings. So thank you for this long meeting.
Thank you.
Madam
Show of
President?
hands.
Madam President?
Yes.
So actually, Mr. Weeproot here just looked up the membership meeting. It is actually scheduled for November 1st.
November 1st. I
Yes.
couldn't remember. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Moratorium. Just a couple of things. In your slide package, on page 17.
Member number.
Pardon me? Oh, John Fast, 153253. In your slide package on page 17 is an analysis of the PIF budget with revenue overlays. My concern is, or my suggestion is, we should take a look to see if we're being overly conservative. It seems to me that we have a lot of money and a lot of money coming in and a lot of needs. So anyway, take that for consideration. Thank you. Lastly, on page 18, Mr. Lefanski, this is for you.
What?
Am I correct that under the bylaws, snowbirds are not eligible to be directors?
You can.
Is that correct? Don't you have to be a resident?
You have to be available. But number one, you have to be that's a really good question.
Okay.
I mean, that really is, and that, I can't go into detail, so I won't.
10 months.
You have to be available under the current bylaws for 10 months. The question comes back, and I'm not going to discuss the bylaws, I'm just going to discuss some legalities.
Okay.
In general, not going directly to Sun City. When you vote, let's say you live in 2 states, you're a resident of 1 state.
Yeah.
Right? So I would consider, and I'm speaking not for the bylaws committee, I'm speaking only for myself at the moment,
I understand.
that I would assume that your residency, if you want, well, it's a question, RCSC is not, it runs the recreational centers. I would think that you would have to make a determination of whether you were a resident or not, and I would think that would be extremely important. And that's about all I'm going to go on. I'm real familiar with residency laws and things like that because I did. That was one of the things I had to make a determination on as an administrative law judge when dealing with Medi-Cal, which is the same as Medicaid, and who was eligible for it in California. Right. But you raise a really good question. We'd most likely have to seek a legal opinion on it if it ever came up.
Okay. Speaking attorney to attorney, the Articles of Incorporation, excuse me, the Articles of Incorporation provide that all members must have the same rights and obligations. A member is not a resident.
That is a member.
So if you could look at that, I'm not, this isn't a cross-examination.
Okay.
But just take a look at that in your ad hoc committee rules, whether those provisions violate the articles.
Okay, so let me repeat, and I'm not trying to be condescending. I want to make sure I understand you correctly. It is your view that based on the Articles of Incorporation, you don't have to be a resident of Sun City to be in the RCSC board. Is that my understanding of what you're saying?
Yes, that's the result.
Okay, I'm sure we can look at that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thanks for doing this.
Just a second. On page 18, you know, your first sentence says bylaws exclude snowbirds and most renters.
Yes.
You have to be a deeded owner.
Okay, but can a renter be a member?
No.
No. You
Okay.
can't.
Okay, so it's only deeded owners.
Correct.
Okay, and deeded owners include the landlord and the snowbirds.
Snowbirds
Okay.
is a deeded owner.
You know what? I'm just going to, it's getting so technical, but I'm going to just tell you my little situation. I own two homes here in Sun City. I only have privileges for one. My second home I rent out, and that individual, if they choose, can become a privileged cardholder. That individual cannot be a member. They can be a privileged cardholder if they choose. But just because I have more than one property doesn't give me more than one vote. And that individual who's renting from me cannot be a member and cannot be a member of the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but it misses the point.
It misses the point?
Yeah. Really, the point is, can a snowbird be a director?
Yes, they can if they can attend 10,
Not
you're here
according,
10 months out of the year.
not according to the bylaws.
I think I disagree with you. I don't have the bylaws in front of me, obviously. I'm more than willing to discuss this with you later, but my understanding is to be a member of the board of directors, you have to be available for at least 10 months. So therefore, what would happen is what the definition of availability would be. At least that's my interpretation, and I've considered this a little bit. I don't want to take up a lot of people's time debating law, but I can certainly talk to you at another time about it. But
Yeah. Why don't I just leave these bylaws with you and you can...
no, I've got a copy elsewhere. I've been studying them quite.
Okay.
Okay.
Linda McIntyre, 123216. It goes to the snowbirds being board members. I think I'll take one little extra issue with that because there's another requirement to be a board member, and that is that you have to be eligible to hold an Arizona liquor license. And you can't hold an Arizona liquor license if you can't vote here or have a vehicle license here. So that precludes a snowbird. I could make myself available for 10 months, because even though we're only here 6, I could fly back for board meetings or attend by Zoom, but I can't hold an Arizona liquor license. So that precludes a snowbird from being a board member.
Okay, I'm looking at thanks for the bylaws in front of me. Obviously, I can't memorize 100% of the bylaws, but I'm looking at
But that's in your requirements to being a board member.
And particularly, I'm looking at that particular provision right now. Thank you, Mr. Fass. Yeah, in other words, I certainly would have fun debating this and going over it with you, but I'm not sure that everybody here wants to get into an argument over the law.
I'm just going on because I've researched that and in the requirements about the snowbirds. So that's just my comment.
We got your point.
Okay.
Again, this is my opinion. I think the whole liquor license thing is just that if you're signing legal documents, you have to be able to pass, you have to have a certain, you can't have a criminal background, let's say, in order to get a liquor license. So it was kind of one way of making sure that the person who's signing the checks is probably.
The corporation gets the liquor license, not the individual board members. I'm not going to belabor it here. It's just an issue for snowbirds who want to apply. So we can take it up at another time, but I just wanted to make another point of clarification.
Okay.
Thank you.
Liquor license thing.
Bill Pearson, 133438. I'll be very quick. Really, the point is the Articles of Incorporation override bylaws, and in fact, you can't write bylaws that somehow change the Articles of Incorporation. You know that as an attorney, Ellen. Actually says that in the Articles. I don't want to put Bill on the spot because it isn't fair. He inherited the mess. Lucky you. I do understand, and I think it's important people realize that question about the Royal Oaks 150-plus unit development is $5,000 buy-in plus the $4,000 if you were to join. And the reason for that is that the infrastructure that we have here is substantial. When K. Hovnanian built their 142 homes, the first 25 homes, they asked it to be knocked down to $2,500, and we agreed to do that on a trial. I don't know what the board did after I had left, but the reality is that Royal Oaks has an agreement that goes well back before Bill and Jan and probably a dozen others because they came about in the 80s. But the reality is that as they keep buying up blocks and blocks and blocks of Sun City and keep building properties, if they're able to come in here and simply pay a per unit price and then have access to all of our amenities, particularly the golf courses, because these are going to be high-end units they're putting up. If they have access without paying that $5,000 buy-in to the RCSC and the $4,000 PIF, they're actually getting a really, really interesting premium for free or for a handful of people paying that. So just, I realize that people sitting in the audience or watching this in the coming weeks and months, they don't understand that, but it's a substantial number. We're talking about $1.2 million, $1.3 million that potentially should be paid to the RCSC unless there's an agreement that precludes it. And I don't ask Bill to try and explain that. The other thing was that I quickly took that 15% of the 1,500,000 or the 350,000 rounds. That comes out to 47,500 rounds of golf from people living out there, not counting resident guests. So that's a lot of rounds of golf. Thank you.
So if I could just address the Royal Oak. So they do pay us, the $248 per unit, regardless of whether or not their resident actually then goes ahead and purchases a privilege card for the other $248. And I believe the percentage, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's pretty small in terms of the number of residents who actually buy the privilege card. So I think in the long run, it works out well for us.
Tracy Bessebarger, 116319. I have one suggestion. I do want to say on Bell and on Grand, it does say the original city of volunteers. Okay, that's never going to change. But like you were saying, you're going to check with ASU. But instead of the original Fun City, and no offense to Jan, but it could be Sun City, the Fun City. That's, sort of, that takes out the original part, and that puts in that we are somewhere people want to come, especially the younger people. The other thing is, as for Duffyland Dog Park, it is enter at your own risk. It should be owner to owner, handler to handler. If there's someone from outside Sun City, the club is supposed to maintain the monitoring and all the people who are going to the park, but that isn't initially being done right now. As for the low voltage, I've checked into that. We were supposed to get, this was on the docket in 2019, 2020 for sure. Chris Herring talked to me when I was, the president of the club, that they need electricity, that's correct, and it's right there on the corner, and he's looked into it, to put the electricity in to be able to use the fairway card button thing. Okay, so that we could use that, and that would also, the reason for the electricity was so that it can go back to corporate office to see who's coming and going for data, so to see the usage. But that's been, and I don't know why it's not on your record, because Chris has said the whole time that they need the electricity. He's been aware of that. So I don't know, because he talked to me about that, and that they were going to put it in, and it was a done deal, and it was going to happen in 2019, 2020, and then COVID and blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah, I don't think we know the history behind that. I don't know, Mike does.
Well, I'd suggest that perhaps the idea went forward, but it didn't make the budget cut. That's
Okay.
pretend possibly an explanation. Now, this year, on my budget that we sent forward was 15th, and it got approved, is $15,000 for new gates at Duffyland. But the more we looked into it, the more of this being a solar operated thing, 15,000 isn't really going to be enough to cover that. And so now when I hear conversation about cameras and this and that, I want to make sure that before we fund a project and do it, that we capture all of the intended consequences of this. I mean, is this going to be a facility that's going to be monitored from going forward? Because right now it's not. We don't have, we have porta potties in there. So we don't have real bathrooms. So is that going to be a request? So in other words, I think there's a lot of unknowns about Duffyland, and I think there's a desire to do something. I support that, but the money that's on my plate and the scope of work that I keep hearing about don't match. So I think some more discussion, and this could be a discussion for our 23 budget submittal. I mean, I think we need to decide what we really want to do with it in terms of the gate, in terms of controlled access, in terms of establishing electrical power, and getting a transformer out there, whatever. That's not cheap, by the way.
it's not something we asked for. This is Chris, so meaning the security, the fob, the whole thing. That was all Chris, and so that's between you and he, not.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
But I was
it's not
just,
on the list right now.
It's just that's what I was told back then. That's all I know.
Okay.
And the electricity is right there on the corner. So it's all good to go. But the people in the park, if you're watching, they need to patrol to, simply say, are you from Sun City? Oh, this is a private park. Maybe the signage should say private park for members only. Okay, because I haven't seen it lately, I haven't been there. But seriously, we're supposed to be monitoring it as a whole, not just the club. The club is just an entity to help out and to be a bridge to the RCSC. The club is a separate entity. So thank you very much.
Madam President, given the issues that we have at Duffyland right now, if we're able to put electricity in there, and there is electricity there because certainly the bank has electricity, it's getting it from somewhere. I would highly recommend that at a minimum, we put in some kind of access control, that we might have videos and porta potties and whatever down the road. Right now, we have an urgent need to control who has access to the park. I think that's where we should focus our immediate attentions, is on the access issue.
Excuse me. Tracy Bussberger, 116319. The only thing that I was told from Chris, we weren't going into security and stuff. That's extra. It was just, I said it worked on low voltage, and maybe we could get it in there, but his big thing was that it wouldn't be recorded back to the corporate office. So there is a power thing in the back of Teresa's yard that you can connect into, and it can go to the gates, and all we were getting were the fobs. All that other stuff, we have a porta potty, but all that other stuff was not into it until it went into the security thing, and everybody went off on that. So I do want to say it was just the fobs to keep people out that are not residents.
Madam President, if the concern is the porta potty, I do believe that Jan Eck made the statement that it was more cost-effective to have the porta potty than to put anything else in there.
Yes. She did a break even, and it was, I couldn't tell you how many years it was going to take to pay for the plumbing or whatever. Not that that's a good enough excuse. But before we get on to, I just want to say, just a minute, Steve. For board members, I don't want to take up the time. This is supposed to be the members' meeting. I want to hear their ideas, their suggestions, that sort of thing. We can work on solving the problem later and make your suggestions. Just before I lose any more people, overall, this is our second member board exchange. It's going to take me a while. Overall, good, bad, needs lots of improvement. Any suggestions you may have, everybody knows how to get in touch with me. You can email me. I'm always looking for suggestions to make this process work a little bit better. So I just want to get that out there before pretty soon it's just 3 people in the room. Thanks. Okay, anybody else?
Madam President?
Yes.
I just had one question. He said that we need new gates, $15,000. My question is, we can build wooden products. Why can't we build metal products?
Well, again, that's a nice point. Keep that in your back burner, and when we get together to talk about all the solutions, let's talk about it. Any other member comments or concerns or suggestions? Oh, we got one. Okay, no problems.
Tom Swenson, 139906. Talk about process, closed meetings and all that. Imagine what the Constitutional Convention would have been like if it had been an open meeting, right? It was bad enough as it was. So it's a democratic thing to close meetings at some point. And my second point escapes me, and so I'll get to it next year.
Next month.
No, it'll take me a year.
Oh, no. Okay. No other comments? I'm going to remind you all to turn your phones back on, and I hope you found this enjoyable. You get to go home. We got a lot of work to do to solve all these things and come up with some kind of a plan. So thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next board meeting. Thank you.
Member.
This is a copywritten production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.